Almost 4 years ago, I was on a business trip out of state, and I got a phone call and heard that my wife had died. At the time, I had 4 children, ages 1, 5, 7, and 9. They didn't know how to cope with this. They had no point of reference for having any family member die, let alone their mother. I raced back as soon as I could when I heard that my late wife Stacy had died. Pulled into the driveway, got out of the car, and my 5-year-old ran up to me, and she was the only one there not crying because she was 5. And she said, "I just made this Mother's Day gift for Mom. Do I give it to you now?"
So my late husband had been sick for several years and his quality of life had been declining. One day I went to work and I came back and my 6-year-old at the time was laying on the floor playing with Legos, and her father was laying next to her and she's like, "Dad's sleeping," but he was not sleeping. He had passed away a few hours before. So since my late husband had been sick for several years, I had been able to process the loss of him before he passed away. My grieving process was different than someone who had lost their spouse very sudden and unexpectedly. So a few months after our respective spouses had passed away, we had joined a support group through our church for people who had been widowed young and who had young children at home. So we became best friends and we were counseling on being single parents and those different things. And then about a year later, we got married.
It might have been one of my children's school counselors who told us first about the Children's Grief Center. I took them to a one-on-one therapist and to the Children's Grief Center.
I had joined a support group for people from our church who were widowed young, and through there, Nathaniel had introduced me to the Grief Center, and so I started taking my daughter there as well, and she loved it.
With the one-on-one therapist, they felt like they were at their awkward grandparents' house who wanted to ask them awkward questions. The Children's Grief Center was a very different atmosphere where it was just full of children their age, and on the first day, they asked, "Why are you bringing us here?" But after just a couple weeks, my children were proudly wearing t-shirts that said Children's Grief Center because their friends had written their names in marker all over the shirt because they belonged.
It really helped just to talk about something with someone my age who was normal. I was kind of worried at first, like, are they going to be a bunch of counselors that just sit there and write while I just sit there and not doing anything and not knowing what's happening? But it wasn't like that.
I mean, I had some fun. I made some people laugh. I really made their day, and I felt pretty good about that. So I just sometimes look forward to going there and meeting other people, because sometimes we're pretty lonely, and sometimes I just want to be interactive with other people, and the Children's Grief Center really helped me with that.
I was surprised that they wanted to be there because that was the only place where they had peers, children their age who knew what it was like to have a mother or a father die. They were able to play games with them, do artwork with them, and without even realizing it, they were grieving with their friends. They were telling their stories, and they were excited to go back every week.
It has been such a very unique experience because we're both widowed, and that's one thing that the Grief Center really helped with us to see, that you can honor and love your late spouse and still be able to find happiness in the world around you. It is a great blessing that we found each other and that we can continue on this journey in life together and still have that shared experience of having lost and buried a spouse young.
Our children are very happy. We've been surprised how our new blended family has merged so beautifully, and they are happy.